Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Aussie Prison Talk. Today I'm going to be speaking on hooking up with a female CO for the second time, and also I'm going to be speaking on the day I almost died, the day I almost lost my life. Now, before I get started, I just wanted to remind you guys to please like my videos, please subscribe and hit that notification bell next to the subscribe button. Hit all so you can get notified every time I drop a video. And also, my bad if my voice sounds a bit horsey. I think I'm coming down with a flu or something, but it won't stop me getting these videos out to my fam, the APT fam. So, right, let's get started. Now, I spoke about hooking up with a female CO in my previous videos, and this also happened in Lithgow Correctional Centre. It was the same prison, but this was a different pod that this happened in. Just a quick story on this one before I get into the second story. And I ended up getting moved from A pod to C pod, and you see in that pod there's roughly there's about 10 cells on the bottom, and there's 10 cells on the second tier. And so I was on the top in the corner, in the left hand corner. That was my cell. And now this particular CO that I'm speaking on today, now she was when I was there in Lithgow Correctional Centre, she was only in the job for 3 years, 3.5, 4 years I think it was. And excuse me. And but I was wary of her, I was wary of her, and her name was Miss Walters. And I was very wary of her because she had a reputation in there of flirting with the inmates, so, I was a bit weary. I wasn't, a bit sure. I was a bit yeah, I don't know, she's doing this to play games or she's, being serious. But how it got started is, every time I used to take a shower, and in the pods there's roughly about 5 showers, right? And you've got these screens. You've got these screens on every single shower. You know what I mean? It gives you a bit of privacy, but where's the privacy? Because there's no door or nothing, and not in a bloody concealed shower or anything, And so every morning when I used to go and take my shower, because every morning when they pop the doors at 7 AM in the morning, and by this stage, I already had my breakfast, my coffee, because I always had my own food, from the canteen, and so the doors pop, and I go out, and I go downstairs to go and have my shower. Now, this particular CO, this female CO, Miss Walters, every single time that I was in the shower, not only myself, a couple other guys too, she used to, come up on the top tier, and walk down to the right-hand corner, because, like I said, my cell was up the top in the left-hand corner, right, and the showers was down the bottom in the right-hand corner of the pod, right? So she used to walk up in the top tier, go down to the right-hand corner on the top tier, and she used to stand there and just stare at us in the shower, right? And we used to the boys used to we used to look at each other, and just smile, and just what the hell, you know what I mean? And we'll be there showering, and she'll be there just staring at us with this cheeky smile on the face, you know what I mean? And it was a bit uncomfortable, it's a bit uncomfortable because, you know what I mean, you don't want, no matter who it is, you don't want some bloody person standing there watching you have the damn shower. You want to enjoy your morning shower in peace, you know. And so anyway, it just kept on happening, you know. For about a week, this kept on happening. And this one day, you know, this one day we got called out, you know, the COs came into the pod and yelled out, Oval, you know, who wants to go out into the Oval? And, you know, and because we get the Oval like once or twice a week up there in Lithgow. That's how it was back then. It's probably different now. I haven't been to prison for years, but anyway, this particular day, you know, I didn't go out into the Oval because you don't have to go out if you don't want to, you know. And I wasn't feeling too crushed up, you know, because of all the heroin that I've been pumping into myself while I was there, you know. So I was feeling a bit under the weather, so I stayed back. And it was only me, and there was T, me and T. He was the only one in the pod, you know. And T was a cool dude. He's Aboriginal. He's an Aboriginal guy, and he was a very cool guy. And he's like myself, you know, convict like myself, not an inmate. But Miss Walters, I'm in my cell. Right, I'm in my cell and I'm sitting there. I'm sitting there in my cell and I'm reading a book, right? Reading a book, having a coffee, having a cigarette, you know. And Miss Walters comes in and she's like, not so much in my cell, but almost, you know, in my cell, standing almost in my cell, and she's looking at me, and she's standing there with this bloody smile on her face, you know. And I looked up at her and I said, "What, miss? What are you doing just standing there looking at me?" You know what I mean? And she goes, "Oh, I'm just looking." I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, you know, I was a bit taken back, you know. I was thinking, what the hell? I didn't know what she was up to. I didn't know, you know, what was going through her head, or, you know, was she trying to set me up, or what was going on. And so anyway, what ended up happening was she walked out, right, and then about 5 minutes later, she comes in, right, but this time she walks in my freaking cell and she closes the door, right, and she goes, she walks up to me and sits on my bed, right, and she goes, "You know that I've been watching you, huh?" And I said, "Yeah, well, it's a bit hard not to, you know, standing right up there above the showers watching us, you know." And she goes, "Do you know why I was doing that?" And I said, "Well, I've got my thoughts, but I'm going to keep that to myself," you know what I mean? And she goes, "Oh, I like what I saw." I'm like, "Oh yeah, good for you," you know what I mean? And then she goes, "Oh, come over and sit here next to me," you know. And I said, "Hell no, I'm staying in my freaking seat. I'm staying in my seat. I'm not going next to you," you know. So she walks over, she gets up from my bed and walks over and sits on the toilet, right? Because where I am, you've got, like, I had my stool, or not a stool, but a plastic chair, and I was sitting on that, and I was in front of my bench, because you've got a little bench in front of your window, right? And that's where I was sitting, and right next to that you've got the toilet. So she gets over there and sits on the bloody toilet, and she's even closer to me this stage, so I ended up moving my chair back a bit, you know, because I was a bit weary of her. And she turned around and said to me, she goes, "Oh, listen, I've been watching you, and I'll tell you what, you know, I shouldn't be saying this, but I think you're hot. I think you're a nice looking guy." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, good for you," you know what I mean? And she goes, now's your opportunity." And I said, "What the hell are you talking about, now's the opportunity?" She goes, "Well, I'm here in the cell with you. There's only one other guy in the pod, you know." And then all of a sudden, right, straight to it, she gets a hand and puts a hand on me crutch. And I'm like, whoa, you know, I wasn't expecting this, like, straight up. It wasn't like the other CEO that I messed with, you know, Miss McDougall. She was a bit more subtle about it, you know. And so I wasn't complaining. So she puts a hand on my crutch, and one thing leads to another, you know. But and then all of a sudden, You know, all of a sudden I find myself on the bed and I'm messing around with this CO. You know, we're kissing and we're fooling around, and I tell you what, those lips, she's got a talent with those lips, that's all I'll say about that. You know, and it was quite funny too, because T ended up coming, right, and there's a little, like, when the doors close, there's probably like a crack. There's probably a crack about that wide, and he whispers through the door, "Yo, keep it down there. I can hear what's going on out here," right? And I yelled out, "My bad, bro." Right, so we ended up messing around in the cell, and you know, and ended up having sex in the cell, you know, and it had to be quick, you know, like it wasn't like the other one, the other CO that I messed with, you know, and it was like probably about 5 minutes, but it was like the best 5 minutes, you know, of sex that I've, you know, that I've had, like, you know, a short term, like just like a quickie, you know what I mean, and that was the second time that I messed with a female CO. But then, you know, I thought to myself after that, I thought, no, I'm getting myself into trouble here. I've got to stop doing this shit, you know. So I made a rule not to do that anymore, you know what I mean? And I told her that. I said, look, you know, that was only a one-off. It's not going to happen again. You know, I shouldn't have done that, you know. And the last thing that I want to be doing is messing around with cops, you know, because I hate cops, you know. You people like to freaking turn keys on us guys and, you know, treat us like a piece of shit. You know, and she goes, well, you wasn't complaining at the time. And I said, well, of course I'm not going to be complaining. Who would, you know? I'm in prison. A woman comes on you, you'll be an idiot to say no. But yeah. But then after that, like, you know, it was a bit awkward between us. You know, but she wasn't so much of a cunt. But that was the second time I messed around with a female CO. Now, this second story that I'm going to tell is the day that I almost died. Right, now this was in the late 90s. This was in the late 90s when I was on the streets. You know, I was really deep into the street life. You know, and up there in King's Cross. And King's Cross is, you know, back in those days, it was a very notorious and dangerous place. And this is what I tell you kids out there, don't think that going to, you know, being on the streets and using drugs is cool and it's a joke, you know, because it's not. It's very dangerous, as you'll hear in this video, that it's nothing to play around with. Nor is going to prison, right? Stay out of the streets, stay out of prison. Now this morning, it was about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, and I'm sitting there in this park, you know, this park's called Green Park. It was, you know, a very notorious park, and it was known, you know, and this was in Darlinghurst, which is about 3 minutes from King's Cross, and we used to sit down at the park and sell heroin, right? So we're sitting there 2:30, 3 o'clock a.m. in the morning. We're sitting there chatting away, and then all of a sudden, you know, these 3 cars come flying around the corner and pull up in front of us. 3 black cars with dark tinted windows, right? And all these Asians jump out of the car, and we found out that it was 5T. Now, 5T was this Asian gang. It was this Asian gang called 5T. If you Google them, you can Google them, you know, 5T Asian gang, and it'll come up because they're very notorious, you know, and you know, most of them are all dead now, you know, and I say suck out of that because that's karma, you know, and but anyway, what ended up happening was all these dudes jump out of these cars, and they run up to us, and you know, there's probably like about 5 of us, and there's like 10 of them, you know, and they come up to us, you know, and they've gone, who's the boss? Who's the boss in charge of selling the gear here? Because that's what we used to call heroin, you know. We used to call it the gear. And, you know, he's looking around, he's looking at me, he's looking at the other boys, and he's going, no, we're not selling heroin, we're just sitting here chopping it up. You know, and this Asian guy goes, don't F me around, right? And he pulls out a gun. He pulls out a gun, And then as soon as I seen the gun, I'll keep it totally 100 with you guys. As soon as I seen that gun, right, and then the other Asians pulled out a gun and knives and baseball bats and bloody iron bars and stuff like that. I thought to myself, no, bugger this, choom, I'm out of there, right? So as I'm taking off, as I'm running, right, I hear my boss yell out, oh, that's him, that's the boss, Puts it on me that I'm the boss, right, because I legged it, right? Like I said, I'm going to keep it 100 with you guys, you know what I mean, like damn. I mean, I'll stand there and fight with my hands and that, and, with a knife, like if I had to, but then, bloody a knife fight, into a gunfight, taking a knife into a gunfight, I'm going to lose all day. But what ended up happening was, I get halfway through the park, and damn, these little Asians are quick. They all circled me, like half ran around this side and half ran around the other side, and they cut me off, right? So I was stuck. I was stuck in the middle. I had all these freaking Asians around me, and all of a sudden, whack, hits me over the head with the iron bar, splits me freaking side of my head open, and then, I'm there fighting for my life. I'm fighting for my life, because I knew, that these guys, if I didn't bloody do something, if I just lay down, these guys were going to kill me, because that's what their intention was. They wanted to kill me, right? They wanted to kill the boss of who was, he was the boss of selling the heroin. And they thought it was me because of that cunt. Excuse my language. And so I'm there fighting for my life. They're giving it to me, and then I ended up putting my arms up like that to try and protect my face. And then all I remember is feeling this sharp sting, right? A sharp sting on the side of my head here. And later, because I didn't know this until because thankfully where Green Park is, right across the road, you got St Vincent's Hospital, which is one of the major hospitals here in Sydney, right? So they'd beaten me, and this guy stabbed me in the head, and I didn't know that at the time. He stabbed me in the head, and later I found out, from the hospital, from the doctor, it was like that far away from my brain. The blade was that far away from my brain, right? And I don't know if you guys can see it, but see right there, that's the scar. That's the scar from when I got stabbed in the head. That's the scar from when I got stabbed in the head, from these Asians when they were bloody trying to kill me. And that's why my eye is like the way it is. That's why it's always there on the left, because they damaged all the nerves and all the major arteries and stuff. They damaged that from the knife going into my head. That's why my eye is, constantly like this. And it can be fixed, but, they said I need a major operation to fix it. A lot of doctors are telling me just to get it removed, and to get a glass eye in there. But, my vision's blurry. I can see out of it, but my vision sometimes is blurry, and sometimes it'll make me a bit wobbly because I can't really see properly. But like I said, I didn't know. I just felt a sting, when he stabbed me in the head, I felt a sting in my head, and how I ended up getting away was, I punched one of them in the throat. I punched one of them in the throat, and I elbowed the other one, and I ended up getting him right in the frickin' temple, right? Excuse me, and they both went down, and when the other Asians looked at them, that was my chance to leg it. So I take off, and I run across the road to around the corner, because the emergency section used to be around the corner, and and just before I got to the doors of the emergency room in the hospital, I started to feel a bit wheezy and a bit groggy and a bit weak, and I put my hand up like that, and I was like holding my head, and I put my head down. I looked, seen all the blood on my hand, I knew it was bad then, you know, and all I remember is going in those doors of the emergency room in the hospital, and then I collapsed. And I ended up falling into a coma, and I was in a coma for 6 weeks. I was in a coma for 6 weeks, and the doctors told me that I flatlined. I flatlined 4 times. In other words, I died 4 times. And they said on the last 2 times, they found it hard, like it was a lot harder to bring me back, because they said it was like I didn't want to come back, like I was fighting them, you know. And I ended up saying to the doctor, well, you blame me, you know. I said, I wish you would have just not, you know, tried to revive me, you know, because I got nothing to live for. There's nothing in this world for me, you know. And that doctor, you know, he had a tear in his eye. I thought that was sad. And I said, you know, it's just the way my life is, mate, you know. And so yeah, I was in the coma for 6 weeks, and I ended up waking up. You know, and after that, I was still in the hospital for another 3 weeks recovering. You know, and this time you had the police. You had the police come in, the detectives. You know, there was like a detective there from the gang squad, and there was also like homicide detectives there, because I almost died, you know. And they were like asking me questions on who it was, and they said, look, you know, we've looked at the CCTV cameras that was like on the hospital at that time, and you could see all these Asians, you know, chasing me and then surrounding me and then beating me. You can actually see one of them stabbing me in the head, you know. And he's gone, we know who they are, you know. We know that these were 5T from out of Cabramatta, because that's where they were from, you know. And Cabramatta is probably about roughly about half an hour from the city, because that's where Darlinghurst is, and, you know, King's Cross. And I turned around and said to these cops, I said, look, go and F yourself. You guys know me. You know that I'm no snitch. And I'm not saying nothing. You guys know that. And I asked one of these detectives, and I said, how many times can you count on your hand where I've been arrested and you've taken me into the cob shop and into the interview room and questioned me? How many times have I ever said something? And he went like this, 0. And I said, yeah, that's right. You know what I'm like. And he goes, yeah, we get that, but we got to do our job. You know, he said, you almost died, you know, you almost lost your life. And I said, well, dude, that just goes with the territory. You know what I mean? That just goes with the territory and what happens when you're running the streets like I was. You know, but I've never really been the same since, you know, I mean, because of my eyes buggered up, you know, and I've got a bit of brain damage, you know, and and that's why I tell people, you know, like, just please be patient with me, you know. And you know, if the way I talk or the way I look, you know, annoys people and some people don't like it, I'm sorry, I can't help that. You know, I apologise, I can't help that. There's nothing I can do about it. You know, this is me, this is who I am. You know, if people like me, great. If they don't, well, it is what it is. You know, but that was the day that I almost died and almost lost my life. Now, what ended up happening, you know, the detectives, after, you know, because they were getting nowhere with me, you know, and I ended up, you know, they left, and, you know, after a while got released from hospital, and I found out, you know, and like, it didn't stop me. Getting stabbed in the head didn't stop me, you know, because I got out of hospital, and when I got out of hospital, I went straight down the road back to King's Cross, and I was back in the mix, you know, and I've still got, you know, I've got a bandage on my head. Everyone knew what would happen, because that's the one thing in the streets. When something happens to someone who's in the mix, in the street life, you know, word travels like that. Everyone knew, and they're like, bro, what are you doing? You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here, bro. You nearly died. got stabbed in the head, you know, and I said, "Hey, F it, I'm not worried about that," you know, and, you know, I ended up turning around and said, my life is crap anyway, and it means shit, so if I lose it, I lose it, you know. I went straight back in the cross, using heroin again, back to doing crime, doing robberies and stuff like that, you know, but, yeah, that was the day, you know, that I almost died, lost my life, and, you know, that was pretty crazy, you know, and, but don't worry, I'm alright now, apart from the brain damage and messed up eye, you know, apart from that I'm alright, you know, and I'm tough, you know, and a lot of people tell me that I'm a lot tougher than I think I am, you know, or a lot tougher than I give myself credit for, and but one thing I've always been is a fighter. I've always been a fighter, and I've never been one just to lay down, you know what I mean, and to take it. But I hope you guys enjoyed those two stories, and please give this video a like, please subscribe, and hit that notification bell, hit all so you get notified every time I drop a video, comment and share this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will drop a new video real soon. Take care, stay safe, and for all you kids out there, stay out of the streets, don't use drugs, and if somebody tells you, you know, someone says, I'm your friend, right, I'm your friend and I want to take care of you, and I by the way, here's some heroin, no, that person is not your friend. That person is not your friend, because a real friend would not put you in that situation. You know what I mean? So just remember that, you know, and there's only one person they care about, and that's themselves. They don't care about what happens to you. If you OD, if you get locked up, whatever, they don't care. So just remember that, okay? Stay in school, get a good education, and stay out of the streets, and stay out of prison. I don't wish anyone to go to prison or to use heroin. It's no life. So, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and please take care, and I'll see you guys all again real soon. Aussie Prison Talk out. Peace.